still of night, where shadows creep. Dan and Norm guide us, no secrets to keep. Through the ancient woods, where lost souls sigh, Bigfoot watches from the depths, lurking nearby. Welcome to the gateway to the unknown, where whispers of ghosts chill you to the bone. Paranormal tales and unknown phenomena unfold. With cryptids and mysteries, let the stories be told. Echoes of laughter from realms out of sight. Ghostly apparitions dance in the pale moonlight. In haunted halls where shadows entwine, Dan and Norm lead us through the veil of time. Welcome to the gateway to the unknown, where whispers of ghosts chill you to the bone. Paranormal tales and unknown phenomena unfold. With cryptids and mysteries, let the stories be told. Through fog and fear we venture deep into ancient mysteries where secrets sleep. With every heartbeat we draw near to enigmas hidden in the atmosphere. Welcome to the gateway to the unknown, where whispers of ghosts chill you to the bone. Paranormal tales and unknown phenomena unfold. With cryptids and mysteries, let the stories be told. So hold on tight as we drift away. Dan and Norm will return another day. In dreams we'll wander where shadows roam free. At the gateway to the unknown, come explore with me. As echoes linger in the night's embrace, ancient mysteries whisper, they leave a trace. With every thought that fades into dark, the gateway awaits, it ignites a spark.
UFO sightings and unidentified aerial phenomena have captivated human imagination for decades. These mysterious objects in our skies defy easy explanation, often displaying incredible speeds and maneuvers that seem to defy the laws of physics. In recent years, the topic has gained renewed attention as governments and military organizations have acknowledged the existence of unexplained aerial encounters. UAP is now the official term used to describe these enigmatic sightings, encompassing objects detected in the air, sea, and space that cannot be immediately identified. As we delve into this fascinating subject, we'll explore compelling incidents, examine conspiracy theories, and consider the impact these phenomena have on our society and culture.
Welcome to the podcast Gateway to the Unknown. I'm Dan Hegman.
And I'm Norm Domack.
Today we're diving into the mysterious world of UFO sightings and unidentified aerial phenomena known as UAPs. Buckle up, listeners, as we explore the strange lights in the sky, the unexplained encounters, and the ongoing debate about what's really out there. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, we guarantee you'll find something to ponder in today's episode. So sit back, relax, and prepare your mind, open to the possibilities of the unknown. Many examples in the UFO, UAP phenomena. Let's dive into some intriguing real-life UFO, UAP sightings and encounters. Back in March March 13th of 1979, you had the Phoenix Light incident. That created quite a stir.
1997, but that's okay.
Sorry
It's
about
just
that.
tough. It's just all
1997.
right.
Dyslexia, I guess. But in any event, on a clear Thursday evening in Phoenix, Arizona, thousands of witnesses reported seeing a series of lights in a V-shaped formation moving slowly across the night sky. The event lasted for several hours, with the lights appearing to hover silently before disappearing. Multiple witnesses, including the former governor Fife Symington, described the object as enormous, spanning over a mile wide. That's huge. The incident remains to be one of the widely most witnessed and controversial UFO sightings in U.S. history. Another incident, this happened November 14th of 2004. And Norm, I'm sure this would be an interesting event for you as well as myself, since we're former Navy men. In any event, it was called the Nimitz Encounter. Off the coast of San Diego, California, the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group encountered multiple UAPs during a training exercise. F-18 Hornet pilots reported seeing white oval-shaped objects about 40 feet long hovering erratically over the ocean. The objects demonstrated incredible speed and maneuverability, defying known laws of physics. The incident gained significant attention when the U.S. Navy officials released the video footage in 2017. And I've watched that footage multiple times, and undeniable. Those things definitely are not ours. What do you think about that, Norm?
Well, why did it take 13 years for that to come out?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, they had it listed as top secret, and I guess eventually they took it off the top secret list and made it available to the public. I mean, these things are being seen coming up out of the water, outpacing our top-notch aviation planes. We can't outmaneuver them. They fly circles around us even when our F-16s are flying at Mach speed, and these things are flying circles around them. It just absolutely blows my mind. Another incident, this one is well known. This happened in December 26th through December 28th of 1980. And that was the Rendlesham Forced Incident. In Suffolk, England, U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge reported strange lights in a triangular-shaped craft in nearby Rendlesham Forest. Over 3 nights, multiple witnesses, including high-ranking officers, observed the craft and claimed to have touched it, noting a smooth metallic surface. This surface had indentations, and there were it left indentations in the ground where it had sat down. I should clarify that. And there were increased radiation levels that were found at the alleged landing site. Another incident, this happened 1989 through 1990, and that was the Belgium UFO wave. Between November of 1989 and April 1990, thousands of people across Belgium reported seeing large triangular UFOs with bright lights. The Belgian Air Force investigated these sightings, even scrambled F-16 fighters to intercept the objects. Radar data collaborated many witness accounts, and the incident remains one of the most well-documented UFO cases in Europe's history. April 6th of 1966, the Westfall UFO encounter. In Clayton South, a suburb of Melbourne, Australia, over 200 students and teachers from 2 schools witnessed a gray saucer-shaped craft silently hover, land, and then quickly take off, leaving a circle pattern or flattened pattern in the grass. The incident lasted for approximately 20 minutes, and it occurred on a clear, sunny morning. Despite the large number of witnesses, the event was quickly dismissed by authorities, and many involved were told not to speak of the incident again. Why? Also, November 17th of 1986, the jail incident. I think that's how you pronounce it, jail 1628 incident. Japan Airline cargo flight 1628 en route from Paris to Tokyo via Reykjavik near Anchorage, Alaska, encountered 3 identified objects over Alaska. Captain Kenya Taraki and his crew observed 2 lights following their Boeing 747 for over 50 minutes. They described the object as being twice the size of an aircraft carrier. That's huge. Aircraft carriers, 3.5 football fields in length. To give the listeners and viewers an idea, that's large. That's very large. The incident was collaborated by Ground Radar and Marines to be one of the most credible pilot UFO sightings on record.
Wow.
Those are just a few examples, and there are literally hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of reports. And, how do these things that are that big, how do they defy gravity? How do they stay up there? I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. It really is.
Yep. And you also have to remember, we talked a little bit ago about the reports from the Nimitz, and that's not the first time people on the ocean have seen things in the sky or even things in the water. There are plenty of ships' logs out there that have, we were followed by a green light under the water. I mean, even George Washington had encounters. And there's a lot of people that say, we don't know what it was. It was a green fog. It was this, it was that. But I've never encountered any green fog. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I don't know anybody that has. I mean, other than there's been a couple of Scooby-Doo episodes where the green fog will roll in, but,
Yeah.
in real life, what are people talking about? What are they really seeing? I just think that's pretty interesting. And we have a story from Sarah from our short story mailbag. She's got a story, and let's see what it is. It says, "Dear Gateway to the Unknown, my name is Sarah, and I never thought I'd be writing to a paranormal podcast. But after what happened to me last summer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I can't keep it to myself any longer. It was a warm July evening, and I decided to take a sunset hike on the Heritage Trail. As the sky turned a brilliant orange and purple, I found a quiet spot overlooking the Monongahela River to watch the last rays of sunlight disappear. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was just a plane coming in to land at the small Allegheny County airport. But as it got closer, I realized it was moving far too slowly and silently to be any aircraft I'd ever seen. It was a large, disc-shaped object, maybe 100 feet across, with pulsating lights around its edge. The lights shifted from blue to green to red in a hypnotic pattern. As I stood there, frozen in awe, the object hovered directly above me, no more than 200 feet. I could feel a strange vibration in my chest, and the air around me seemed to crackle with electricity. For what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a minute or two, the craft remained motionless, as if it were studying me. Then, in the blink of an eye, it shot straight up into the sky at an impossible speed, leaving behind a faint trail of shimmering light that quickly faded away. I was left standing there, my heart racing, trying to process what I just witnessed. I know what I saw that night in Pittsburgh was real, and it forever changed my perspective on the universe and our place in it. I can't explain it, but I know I'm not alone in having experienced something truly extraordinary." How many times have you heard stories of people that echo those kinds of things? They were out somewhere, they heard something, or their attention was drawn somewhere, and it was a light, or it was an object, and it didn't make any noise, and then it, in a blink of an eye, it was gone. How many reports do you think you've taken over the years that have that kind of that have that kind of story to it.
Since my involvement and interest in the UFO, now UAP phenomena, and it's been a long time. I started at 5 years of age is when I had my first experience. But reports that I've taken since I've actively been investigating UFOs, uh, they range into the thousands. I mean, literally, what she just wrote into us is very, very common. It's you'll have groups of people, 12, 13, 15, 18 people, and maybe only one or two people out of that crowd will see an unidentified object. And they'll point it out to the other people, but the other people aren't able to see it, which
Wow.
that's a phenomenon in itself.
Yeah.
But one report that kind of sticks with me, just as you read her letter, uh, was the Allegheny River. People that were actually crossing the bridge over the Allegheny River, and they saw lights just below the bridge. And of course, they slowed their car down and eventually was able to pull off. And they watched these lights go down into the water. You could clearly see them under the water, then come back up and just steadily rise up in the air. And when they were about 200 feet off the ground, just take off in a blink of an eye.
Wow.
Absolutely no sound. The witnesses said that it felt like their bodies were electrified. If you take a balloon and you rub it across the carpet, or for those that have hair, you rub it in your hair and then you move it away and your hair stands up. But they said that they could actually feel, the hair standing up off their body in a tingly sensation. But there was absolutely no sound involved with the sighting. And they said that the lights were, brighter than anything that they had ever seen before. And, what has the capability of doing that? It just
Right.
amazes me. We could talk about some conspiracy theories. And of course, theories that are related to UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or now the terminology is UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. And of course, at the top of our list, government cover up. And many believe that the world's governments, primarily the US, have been hiding evidence of extraterrestrial contact for decades, including recovered alien technology, recovery of alien bodies. For instance, the Roswell crash site in New Mexico. Supposedly, they called an undertaker. His name was Glenn Dennis, and asked him how they would properly go about preserving, if he had any child-size coffins. And of course, he thought there might have been a bad plane crash. And he said, well, I have some child-size coffins in stock. And he said, I'll load them up and bring them out to the crash site. And apparently, there were several alien bodies that were strewn around the wreckage. Supposedly, they captured one that was still alive, and it lived for several years, and then eventually it died. But, just shortly after they released the information, I think it was the next day, they retracted their statement and said, it was just a weather balloon, wreckage from a weather balloon. Supposedly, the wreckage and the bodies that they retrieved were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And then, of course, now the area known as Area 51, Area S2, that stuff has since been transported out to those more secure locations. Second on our list is alien-human hybridization. Some theorists claim that aliens are conducting genetic experiments on humans, creating hybrid beings to gradually integrate into our society. That's a frightening thought. And of course, that I've done possible abductees, people that claim that they possibly have been abducted by aliens. have strange markings on their body. Many of them are faced with the trauma of some type of implant, and that implant can be almost anywhere in the human body. Some people have gone to surgeons to have these implants removed, and they'll find these little, almost like a microscopic bead that looks like it's got wires coming off of it when they look at it under a microscope. Some of these implants, they're giving off some type of radio frequency. And then once they're removed from the body, the transmissions cease to be there. They no longer give off a frequency. So there's definitely something going on. Like I said, it's just something that is frightening in itself. It's a phenomena that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people claim that they've been abducted. Many have gone under regressive hypnosis, and under hypnosis, it's come out that, yeah, something traumatic has transpired. Third on our list, underground bases. And this is a hot topic. You have Dulce, New Mexico. That's supposedly a underground base. From what I understand through research I've done, 7 levels underground. Level 7 is for the aliens exclusively, and they're conducting all kind of bizarre experimentation. Rumor has it, or reports have it, that our military actually got into a confrontation with these alien beings, and they actually got into a battle, and several of our military personnel lost their lives. Of course, some of the alien beings were also killed in this fight. But again, it's speculation. Don't know for sure other than what reports that have been out there. But conspiracy theories suggest that there are secret underground facilities such as Area 51. Again, you have Dulce, New Mexico, Area S2, and there are many that stretch across not only the United States, but around the world. The underground bases are where governments collaborate with aliens on advice and technology and projects. Rumor has it that, in exchange to allow the aliens to experiment on human beings and conduct animal mutilations in exchange for them to give us their technology. And you have to wonder, you really do. Fourth on our list, ancient astronauts. And of course, this goes clear back, Egyptians, the Sumerians, even back before that. But this theory proposes that extraterrestrials visited Earth in ancient times, influencing human civilizations and being mistaken for gods and supernatural beings. But supposedly, they claim that, the Anunnaki, that's supposedly a race of alien beings that built the pyramids. And when you get into looking at the technology behind the pyramids, our most sophisticated archaeologists today claim that we don't know how they were built, and we don't possess the technology. Some of those stones are massive to where it's hard for them to pick them up with some of our largest construction equipment. So, you got to wonder there. Fifth on our list, and this one is one that I've done a lot of research on and have investigated, and it's called the Black Knight satellite. And if you go to Google and type in Black Knight satellite and pull up across the top of the screen and click on images, and you can see what this thing looks like. But supposedly some believe, some believe that an ancient alien satellite dubbed the Black Knight has been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, monitoring our progress. Astronauts, the International Space Station, they've all seen this thing. They've taken pictures of it. And of course, NASA, never a straight answer. They claim that it is a cover that was meant to cover up a portion of the space station to protect it. And supposedly, while they were trying to install this, they lost control of it and it floated out into space. And if you look at the pictures on, like I said, images on Google, there's no way that thing is a cover that was meant to cover anything on the International Space Station. Then you have reverse engineering. There's a belief that the governments are secretly reverse engineering crashed alien spacecraft to advance our own technology. And I firmly believe that. I believe that we are actively involved in a reverse engineering project, and not only our government, but the world governments. If they can bring one of these craft down or get their hands on one of these craft, can you imagine to harness the capabilities of what these things are able to do, the superiority of owning that technology. And of course, last on our list, alien abduction. And I touched on that just briefly a few seconds ago, but some theorists argue that governments are aware of and possibly complicit in alien abduction of humans for experimentation. And that can be a whole podcast in itself. But
It is. We have an episode coming up on that.
yes, we actually have our group, our organization, we actually have several members that are possible alien abductees. And, the stories they tell you just make you have goosebumps on top of goosebumps. It's a phenomenon. When we get to that episode, you're definitely not going to want to miss it.
It's so much. All of that is so much. And, sometimes it's hard to separate fact from fiction because people need to sell magazines. People need to push their TV show. So there's that level of entertainment that kind of gets woven through, the whatever the facts may have originally been. And, original newspaper article may have said something to the effect of, we were out in our yard, we saw 3 green lights in the sky, and we didn't know what they were. And then when that story gets retold, we saw 4 green lights in the sky. We didn't know what it was, but it had a red dot in the middle. And it kind of like that telephone game,
Yep.
That information gets changed and abbreviated and elongated and all of those things. So it's important to know the source. It's important to understand that some things people may just have remembered it wrong. You can have 5 people at an accident scene, and they're all going to have a different story.
That's
Doesn't
true.
mean lying. It's just a different perspective. And as you said, there may be people who are observing an event, but not everybody can see the craft in the sky or on the ground or wherever it may be. And as you said, that is a phenomenon unto itself. What makes that happen? What makes that frequency able to be common between the craft and the person, the observer? And why doesn't everybody have that same frequency? It's interesting. Does that have to do along those same lines as color blindness, possibly, where the rods and the cones only pick up certain information and transmit that to the brain? Maybe. So, but is there anything else that you'd like to add with any of those little stories, those examples that you had?
There's a lot we can talk about. I know, some of the other episodes we have coming up, we can definitely, go into detail a lot more. I know just in sightings that I have experienced in my lifetime, we could probably actually do 2 or 3 full podcasts on just that alone. And, there's something to it.
Yeah.
I believe with all my being that they're not alone. We have been lied to all our lives. They're here. They've been here, and they're going to be here a lot longer after we're long gone.
With that said, that one of those examples was the Black Knight satellite. And if that is the case, that it is there, and if it is the case, there's a lot of ifs, and I remember there's a saying, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. but if that Black Knight satellite is monitoring our progress, what would that look like? What are they expecting an end result that we get to, and they're just trying to see how fast we get to it? What is the end game? Is it where we achieve? Is it event based, where they wait to see if we achieve world peace and how long that takes, or if we achieve mass annihilation and how we do it and how long it takes? Or is it just like a clock? We're going to give them 1 million years, and if they're still around, we're going to see where they're at that point, and then we're going to hit the reset button and bring in another civilization or other beings that are hybrids. What would that look like? What if
Sure.
they're if are being monitored? To why are we the experiment? I mean, we crossbreed animals all the time. We do it, dogs, all these designer breeds. We don't think anything of it, having, a, a dash hound and a dachshund and all these other things. We do it as humans to other animals. So from our species does that to another species. So can another species be doing that to us? And
Well,
is it wrong
I
if we?
guarantee that they are. One of the reasons why they're possibly monitoring us is, to prevent nuclear proliferation, annihilation. There are many reports that they say that the earliest nuclear blast that we set off, it sent a ripple in the time continuation. It sent a wave out that these alien beings became very alarmed, and they're monitoring us to prevent us from destroying ourselves. You have many cases where UFOs are seen over nuclear power plants, or they're seen over our military strategic missile sites. And one of the locations out west, it was on a daily basis. These craft would come in and hover over top the nuclear missile silos, shoot a beam to the ground or down into the missile silo. They would literally have to bring a crew in, take that missile out of the ground, and completely replace it with a fresh missile because it destroyed the targeting uh, coordinates and targeting system on that nuclear missile.
Wow.
And it got to the point where this was of such happening so often that they ended up they had to shut the bases down. And not only here in the United States, this is going on worldwide. It's happened over in Russia. Uh, Same thing with them.
Wow.
So they're clearly sending us a loud message. Hey, we're not going to let you destroy yourselves. We're not going to let you destroy the planet.
And that's another question. Is it that they don't want us to hurt ourselves, or they don't want us to mess up the field, the earth? Is that a bigger part of it, or is that an equal part of it? I don't know. I think they're all good questions, and I've heard a lot of theories from a lot of different people that, and they're all plausible, because we have that big word in the middle, or in the beginning, if, or why, why this, why that, and we don't know, and we're missing a lot of our history too. So that doesn't help us help us in our investigation when we don't have all the pieces. We're trying to come to a conclusion, and we don't even know what happened in the beginning. How can we figure out what happens, at the end, or a situation like the pyramids? We don't know. We have no idea. We just found some interesting stuff out not even a week ago, that there's even more underneath the pyramids, big columns with spirals around it and everything else. What? And what are we going to find 50 years from now, 100 years from now?
Absolutely.
And also the pyramids that we see, there's some information that that's not the original pyramids, that the pyramids that we see are built on top of an older structure, all of them. So how old are the ones underneath? If we think the ones on the outside, and some people say they're They're 15,000 years old. Some people say they're over a million, based off of some information about water erosion, and that they were under the water based off some parabolic erosion patterns. And that was over a million years ago. And they can't date that because you can't carbon date stone. There's certain things that they can try to do, but you get some wildly different answers. But looking at, pitting and edging and all these different things, there's just so much. We don't have the answer, and we can't copy what they did. We can't rebuild it. We allegedly can't even build the go to space. We've lost the technology to go to space, and it's too difficult to build it back. I'm like, and if you've heard that, I know that's a little bit off topic, but there's more. We have more technology in a cell phone now than the lunar orbiter or lander or whatever had back in the 60s. It shouldn't be more difficult or impossible to rebuild. It should be easier and better, you would think.
I think we're having the wool pulled over our eyes. That's what I believe.
And that again, why? What's just tell us the truth. Just tell us the truth. Let us, move on and get better together as a society. Give us the information. Unless there's something there that's going to alter, tell us the truth. But I think if we knew the truth, the people who do have the knowledge would lose the power. Because knowledge is power, and if everybody has knowledge, then everybody has power. And the people that have the most power, what do they want? They already have all the money they'll ever need. So what does somebody with power want? But more power.
Greed.
So
for them, enough is not enough.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. So let's talk about some facts, because we can talk about conjecture, and it's fun to toss it around, and we do in every podcast, and that's part of the fun of doing this podcast. Talk about some facts here. So we've got that the U.S. government has officially acknowledged the existence of UAPs and established the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the AARO, to investigate the sightings. And many UFO sightings can be explained by natural phenomena, misidentified aircraft, and or atmospheric conditions. Still don't know about the green fog, but the other things that on a hot day you have those little wavy lines coming off the pavement, and that changes the vision a little bit. So, can somebody look at something and think it's something else? Absolutely. Yesterday, I thought there was a guy walking a chicken. That's what it looked like. What it was a guy with a weed whacker. But the perspective that I had, it looked like he had a chicken on a leash.
Oh, wow.
So, and I laughed about that, and so did my mother-in-law. And it's about perspective. I have chickens. Chickens were on my mind. I saw a lady walking her cat, so I didn't think it was too far of a leap to see somebody walking their chicken. I've seen it on the internet.
Yeah.
I'll post pic. I'll get a picture somewhere and put it up there. But people have skunks for pets. So I don't know. It's all about perspective, right? So let's look at the next fact, that the CIA has declassified documents related to UFO investigations, making them available to the public. And that is through the Freedom of Information Act. And the FIAO, I believe it is, something like that. You can get online and request documents. You may get them, you may not. If you get them, they may be redacted. There may be more black on that page than they're blocked out than there is anything else. Why block if it's something that? Why block it out? You know what I mean? Unless somebody's. I can understand if there's an ongoing operation, or if you don't want to. If we didn't do anything wrong, then share it. So why block it out? Why redact it? Why?
I agree.
There's so much. The Kennedy papers just got released not too long ago. I don't think it's still clear on who did what. And if it was, the people who were they kept pushing it back because the people involved are still around. But that's when to me, that's when they should have released it. That way they can be held accountable. But that's not how it works.
Yeah.
The people who make the rules are above the rules. That's just how it's always been. If you're in charge, you do whatever you can to stay in charge. And, if everybody was held to the same standard, that'd be wonderful. But we're not. We have classes of society. In other cultures, it's very clear. You have different colors. Well, different color dot on your forehead. There's that happens all the time with the caste system, and
Yeah.
we have that. Every culture has it. Some is more obvious than others, but we all have it. Maybe it's by the car we drive. Maybe it's by the house we live in. Maybe it's the neighborhood or zip code that we live in. Maybe that's how we differentiate the socioeconomic statuses that we have. But people aren't going to lose control because they're not going to go from up here on the status to down here. And there shouldn't be an up here and a down here. It should all be the same, but it's not. It's just not, and people say life isn't fair, and maybe that's all part of that. I don't know. But is there anything you have to add to that? Or would like to?
I'm good.
Okay. So we have advances in technology such as smartphone cameras and drones, and they have led to an increase in reported UFO sightings. And another fact is the majority of UFO sightings occur at night, with many witnesses describing lights or illuminated objects. I think that makes it a little bit easier to see, but sometimes they're right there in the middle of the day, right in the middle of the airport. There was issues. There was events at the Chicago airport a few years back where they had to stop the air traffic. And if it was hours, I don't think we would put our people in danger to that extent. I don't think. I want to say we wouldn't, but who knows? Maybe some things that are ours are put in situations like that to see how we react as, professionally. What do the pilots do? What does the ground crew do? What does the air traffic control do? Maybe that's part of the experiment. I don't know if it is an experiment, and maybe it's to see who reports it and how they report it. Maybe that's all part of what's happening. It makes sense to me that I don't think everything is ours, but I think some of it may be. I think
I agree with you, Norm.
Way ahead of the civilian world, and the civilian world some of it has very close ties to the military and vice versa. The whole military industrial complex is a thing, and part of that is for, the government issue. Some of the government activities are subject to the Freedom of Information Act, but private companies are not. So you give the money to the private company, let them do the research, and you don't have to. It doesn't fall under the Freedom of Information Act. So I'm thinking that might be part of it. Some UFO reports have been corroborated by multiple witnesses, radar data, and video evidence. Those are the good ones because you have some evidence. It's not somebody just saying, I saw this, or a group of people saying, I saw this. You have a group of people plus the radar signatures, plus the stories from people who are very credible, pilots they're right there. They understand what other aircraft look like. And if they say, I have no idea what kind of aircraft that is, there might be something to that, And there's some other countries that, including France, Brazil, and Chile, that have official government programs dedicated to investigating UFO reports. I think every country probably does. If you have a military, you're probably looking at who else might be in your airspace. That's just a guess, but I think it's a logical one.
Yeah, no doubt. Psychological aspects, the belief in an experience of UFOs and UAPs can be attributed to various psychological factors. One key aspect of human tendency to seek patterns and explanations of the unknown, often leading to misinterpretation of natural phenomena or unfamiliar objects. Additionally, the power of suggestion and the cultural influence can shape people's perceptions and memories, potentially causing them to interpret ambiguous stimuli as extraterrestrial. Researchers argue that certain UFO experiences may be related to sleep paralysis. I kind of don't agree with that, but could lead to sleep paralysis or altered state of consciousness. The excitement and mystery surrounding UFOs can also tap into our curiosity of the universe and our place in it, making the topic particularly compelling for many individuals. Furthermore, the desire for meaning and significance in one's life can lead to some people to embrace extraordinary explanations for unusual experiences. I know a lot of people, they call it pareidolia, I think is how you pronounce it.
Okay.
For instance, when you're out on a bright sunny day and you're looking up at the clouds, and you point and say, "Hey, gee, look, that cloud looks like an angel," or "That cloud looks like a fish," or "That cloud looks like a dinosaur." People, they'll see things, but their mind will see something different, and you have that a lot. But is there more to it?
Right. Like looking up in the sky on Pride Day and everything, all the clouds are all penises. Is that possible? I don't know. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's a bigger one. Oh. So, looking up in the sky, it's not new. As long as there have been people, whether they were Homo sapiens or not, even animals, they look up in the sky and they've got to think, are we it? What's the purpose? It can't be just to try to find our next meal. There's got to be a purpose here. And maybe that purpose is, maybe that's what that Black Knight satellite is looking at. Or are we thinking deeper and looking at things in a different way and acting a different way and making progress, whatever that is? And maybe, or, if it's technological progress and we're going so far, and then maybe progress could be, hey, we have too much technology. Let's kind of back off on that a little bit. But I think once Pandora's box is open, I don't think you're gonna say you might say we need less of that, but I think the tendency is to just keep pushing to see how much technology, let's make more technology to manage the technology we already have.
Yeah.
And we're there right now with AI. Everything has been, all this technology, these little pieces of technology, whether they're applications on our phone, whether it's a camera, whether it's a television, we try to say, let's build technology that puts them all together. Our phones are so many different instruments all combined in one. That's the technology of adding more technology into technology. Where does that end? The phones that we actually hold in our hands now, I believe, will someday be in our hand in the form of a chip or a receiver of some sort. I don't know how it's going to work, but I think that's, with technology wrapped in technology, I think that's those steps are coming. I mean, we've talked about chips being implanted in brains with, Neuralink and some of the things that might be able to control and do. Maybe it's a good thing under certain conditions. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I can't speak intelligently on that. But anything that's electronic can be hacked, and I just have my trepidations about all of that. And I don't think we're going to have the option to opt out. I think that it's just going to be, if you want to have a house, you need to go through this process. And part of that process is going to have the technology kind of layered in there. You know, right now to fly, we need the real ID. We could have boarded without it before. Why have that now? What are they doing with that data? How's that used? You know, and that segues into the technology. What technology are we going to be a part of and not really understand why? You know, because you need it may not be the best answer, you know? And why do we need it? I'm okay with, being human and not a cyborg. But we're kind of cyborgs anyway. We go everywhere with our phone. That technology is a big part of us, and it's on our. We have it in our hands. We have it on our wrists. The phones are connected to here, and we have what we need. I mean, I can start my car from my watch. I can turn my heat on and off from this watch. I can solve calculus issues, problems with my watch. And it's recording my biological functions too, my heart rate and, how many laps I swim and all that kind of stuff. So right now, we're cyborgs, but we have the option to put our phone down or take our watch off. I don't think we're going to have that coming up in the future. I think because technology just keeps pushing that boundary, I think that's just how it's going to be.
I believe you're right. I believe, a implant, nanotechnology, implant in the brain, that in turn connected with your eyesight,
Right.
that in turn connected to your hearing. And, you say, call home. And, the process starts and it's all within us.
Mhm.
And I think that's where we're headed.
I think so too. And we already have the augmented reality and the virtual reality and the blend of those two things. In addition, you couple that technology with our phone and our watch, and we couple all that tech with the bio side of things. There's that interface there, and maybe it's going to come to the point where we can always have a hologram of information. The internet's just going to be there without having glasses on. Now you have to walk around with those glasses on. But now, I mean, coming up, is it possible that all of that is just going to be built in? We're just going to see it no matter where we look. It's just going to be part of the frame of the field of vision. We're going to have information around there, and we just look at it. Maybe we look at it twice and it calls home. Or, I don't know. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility because we're close to that now.
No pun intended. Heads up display.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just like our fighter jets have,
You're right.
The pilot's visor, all that technology and all that information is right there in front of them.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff that makes its way into pop culture. That makes its way into the movies we watch, the books we read, all of those things. Really, really cool. The technology that we have, I love it. I'm not going to speak bad about it. I just wonder where it's going. I use tech every day. I have a media company. That's what I do. AI is an amazing thing. I couldn't do some of the things that I do without it. The things that used to take me a week to do, I can now do in 5 minutes. And the things that would take teams of people to do now take one person. So it's there for consolidation and efficiency, and a lot of that makes its way into the stories that we tell each other, because we're influenced and inspired by the technology, and so we write books like, well, gosh, the Matrix. I mean, there's so many on here, but let's look at some pop culture. If you want to look at some of these, I'll tell you, I'll let you roll with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's the first one on the list.
Oh yeah, and that was a good movie. I've watched it well over a dozen times, and I could sit down and watch it again. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that was a 1977 Steven Spielberg's classic film about UFO encounters and first contact. And, just a fantastic movie. It really was. Another one, very popular and still today. All the reruns are very, very popular, and that's the X-Files. 1993 to 2018. It was a popular TV series followed by FBI agents investigating paranormal cases, including many UFO-related storylines. And a lot of the stuff that went into those scripts and then into the making of those episodes is actually true. And a lot of those episodes were written around true events. Very good series. I still watch reruns today. Another great one, H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds. That was back then, a radio talk show, and seminal science fiction novel that inspired numerous adaptations and influences, of the UFO culture. But when they had that show, there were actually people that were jumping off buildings. It created hysteria. People panicked. They thought that it was actually really happening. And is that part of the reason why, the government is worried that if the president were to be on national television this evening and say, well, I'm here to tell you that we are not alone. We haven't been alone. And the alien beings are standing around them, and the UFO has landed on the lawn of the, would people go out and commit suicide because of that? Maybe at one time, years ago, that might have been something that would happen. But I think people have readily accepted the fact that, it's impossible that we are all there is. There's more to it. And I think that they would readily accept it, and it wouldn't create mass hysteria. The one is Ancient Aliens, presented 2009 on the History Channel. Ancient Aliens, I watched that a lot. It's a series exploring theories about extraterrestrial influences on human civilization. And they do a lot on, the pyramids, in Incan pyramids and structures that are left over. And they claim that that's all alien technology, and aliens helped and influenced the building of those structures. And again, whether that's true or not, a lot of speculation, but that's what they claim. Mm-hmm. Another one, 2019 and through 2020, was a TV series called Project Blue Book. And I watched probably the first 10, 12 episodes, and for whatever reason, I just really couldn't get into it. But a TV series based on real life U.S. Air Force investigations into the UFO sightings. And then Communion. I don't know, for those of you out there that know Whitney Strieber, I have his book, Communion, and I've actually read it a couple times. It's the best-selling book about alleged UFO abduction experiences. And it's a good book. You can get it for those of you that might be interested. Check with your local bookstores. Your library, I'm sure, would have it, or you can get it, through Amazon.com. It's a good read. And then you have The Phenomenon 2020. That was a documentary film examining the history of UFO sightings and government investigations. And then, of course, you have UFO. It's a podcast by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. George Knapp is a investigator and a news reporter. I believe he's out in the Las Vegas area, but it's a popular podcast exploring UFO incidents and the related topic. And I've tuned into that multiple times. It's a good podcast.
George Knapp does a great job. He's very methodical, and he's open-minded. He doesn't say, this is definitely the answer. He's one of those people that says, what if and why, and asks, prefaces a lot of what he does on that and says, let's just figure out what the answer really is. let's figure out, what the connection is here. And I like his methods. I really do. The talking about some of these things, close encounters of the third kind. When I first saw that, I, I was, I think I was 5, 6, and it was just like, what? There's things that fly around the sky and weird looking people come out,
Yeah.
and what are some of the scenes that stand out to you? Like, let's just take one, because we're over an hour at this point. But what is your, if you had one scene from Close Encounters that stands out the most, which one what would you say it is for you?
I think when the UFO landed on uh, I forget the name of the mountain, but
Is it Devil's? I think it was Devil's Tower.
Devil's Tower. That's it. And UFO landed, and then they were doing the exchange between the humans, and group of humans were going with them, and they were leaving a group of alien beings with us.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine? I just think that'd be amazing. I think I would go. I think I'd tell my wife, "I love you, baby. You come with me." I don't know if she'd come. She's not into the same stuff we are.
Yeah,
She might not want to leave the grandbabies. I
I'd
wouldn't want
go.
to leave.
I would
Yeah,
go.
I don't know. Grandkids are different. As you know, I at one point in my life I'd be like, I'm gone. But now, when you hold those babies, that's a different feeling.
I
You know
don't
what I
know.
mean?
I might be on the menu for tonight's dinner, but if one were to land out here and they opened up the door and they waved and motioned to come, I'd give my wife a kiss and I'd go. I would definitely go.
Yeah. I eh, right now I'm unsure, but before I'd be like, "Yep, absolutely, I'm going." But now I don't know, man. Like, it's just, you know what? If you're going, I'm going. Buddy system. Let's roll, Captain.
There you go. There you go.
Look, I'll just,
They
leave
pick
a
me up. I'll tell them to swing by Norm's house and we'll grab you.
right on. You know, we saw 4 UFOs these couple of Fourth of Julys ago. We were out watching all the fireworks. We live at the top of a hill, beautiful, well, a valley actually, that we can see it's the Allegheny River. It overlooks the Allegheny, and I'm sorry, it overlooks the Monongahela, the same one that's in this story, as a matter of fact. And we were up there, and my wife, she never saw anything before that, but that night we saw 4 UFOs, one after the other. They were, orange pulsating. I have a video actually. They were orange pulsating, and they got close to us, and they just kind of faded out, and you could see them going through. So that was interesting, and probably maybe 5 seconds or so behind that one would be another one doing the same thing, and that happened 4 times. So they were heading towards. Um, I guess they were heading west down the Monongahela River from our position to downtown Pittsburgh towards, I guess from Pennsylvania towards Ohio, if you want to look at it that way. It's so interesting, but not everything's a UFO. That people like you said, they can sometimes see a flock of birds and it looks like there's something way off in the distance and they're just small birds.
Yeah.
There are ways to debunk it. If you can get the video of it, great. If not, there's really not much else to go on other than stories, unless you have some radar signatures and things like that. But there are ways that some people will take a mylar balloon and spray paint it with photoluminescent spray paint, and then shoot it with a flashlight to let it absorb that light, and then turn the light off, and now you have this green thing that's floating through the sky, and they film it, and it looks like a UFO. That's a hoax. That's a fake. It's not doing the real investigations any justice by doing that kind of thing.
That's true.
And if people want notoriety, I think there are better ways to do it. But sometimes people do hoaxes. People will make rubber feet that are 2 foot long, shaped like a gorilla foot, and call it and step on it. I think you can actually buy shoes that you put them on like slippers, and they're heavy, and you can walk around the woods leaving prints for people, and they think it's a Bigfoot track. That's not, to me, that's not okay.
No.
Might be funny, a bunch of people drinking, or whatever, hanging out and making tracks in the woods, and say, "Hey, I saw a Bigfoot over there," and then you get a team of people to go and look, and you're sitting back watching them take castings and things of the footprint
Yeah.
that you made. You know, It- does that happen? I would say yes.
Oh,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know of anybody personally doing that, but I'm sure that there are investigators out there that know of people who hoax, and for whatever reason. And the same thing with the UFOs. A lot of that can be debunked. Maybe it's the lights that are on the interstate, that they're, the circular lights, that maybe it's that. And I've seen people Photoshop that. They take they'll spray like hairspray in front of the camera, and they'll video it, and then they take the still shots, and it looks like something otherworldly. So I don't know. There are ways to debunk it, and there are organizations that will investigate. One of them is called the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained, and that is an organization that you are the leader of. What do you call yourself for
Boru,
that title? Do you have a title for that?
BORU, Boru, the Butler Organization for Research of the Unexplained.
Mhm.
And our core mission is to investigate and research UFO, UAP phenomena in the tri-state area. And, we go out and we research and investigate. And, we work with the local law enforcement agency as much as we can. And we also work with, other area groups, exchange, notes and sighting information. And, if we get a sighting that is in an area, we get a report that is close to their location, we call them, give them the opportunity to conduct the investigation. And, a lot of times we will go and meet up with them and assist them to try to find out what the, sighting was all about.
Okay. All right. I would like to hear more about that process, what that looks like at some point. Maybe we do a live show for this podcast, and have,
Sure.
something. I think that would be fun. I think that would be
Absolutely.
fun. We'll have to look into that. So why don't you lead us out with a conclusion, and just brush your thoughts too, along the way here.
The mystery surrounding UFOs and UAPs continues to captivate the collective imagination. These sightings can be explained as natural phenomena natural phenomena or manifestations. I can't talk right, but to be a core of unexplained incidents that challenge our understanding of the world around us. There is a percentage that cannot be explained. The recent acknowledgement of UAPs, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, by government agencies, has lent new credibility to the field of UFO research, opening possibilities for scientific investigation with the leads that eventually it will come to public disclosure, which we are hoping for. As we continue to explore the skies and push our boundaries and our knowledge, it's important to approach the topic with an open mind, balancing skepticism and curiosity. Whether the phenomena turns out to be extraterrestrial origin or represent as yet unexplained natural or technological occurrences, the study of UFOs and UAPs has the potential to expand our understanding of the universe and our place in it. We encourage our listeners to share their experiences, their thoughts on this fascinating topic, and as well as any other paranormal encounters. If you've had an experience, contact us. Share your experience with us. Any personal information will be held with the strictest confidence. We would love to hear your stories. We would love to hear what you've experienced. And it's out there. We're not alone. The truth is out there, and together we can continue to unravel the mysteries that surround us. And don't be afraid of the unknown. I firmly believe that these beings, if they meant to do us harm, they would have done it long, long ago. And, we're all in this to learn. This is a learning experience, and we can all learn together and share our experiences. And that's the only way that I firmly believe that that's going to lead to total public disclosure, because the government will never, ever tell us the full truth. And with that, thank you for joining us. Please come back. We have many, many more exciting and very interesting episodes that we plan on sharing with you. And again, contact us. Your likes, your dislikes. This is a learning experience for all of us, and we're constantly looking for a way for improvement. There's always room for improvement. And with that, you have a good evening. Stay safe, and God bless. And thank you for joining us on our podcast, Gateway to the Unknown.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
In the still of night, where shadows creep.